everyone. Welcome to another episode of EmpowerED Consulting Social Justice Podcast Series. So this podcast was created on behalf of the Social Justice Committee to educate and raise awareness on different topics within social impact and education. We're your hosts for this episode. So I'm Ayushi and I actually just graduated from NYU.
And I'm Amaya and I'm actually a senior at NYU. We'd really just like to introduce our guests for this episode, Garri Rivkin and Michael Chin from the City Tutors. The City Tutors is a volunteer tutoring and mentoring community dedicated to supporting historically underserved NYC communities gain access to the educational services that they need. And for the purposes of this episode, we'd really love to discuss more about the work you do at your nonprofit and its role in tackling educational inequity in New York City.
Garri and Mike, thank you again so much for appearing on this episode. We'd really appreciate it if you could introduce yourself to our audience and talk a little bit about your respective roles at City Tutors.
No problem. Also, congratulations to Yushi for recently graduating.
Thank you.
So, Garri, you want to go first or you want me to go first?
I think you could go.
All right. So, yeah, I'm Mike. My title is now Human Resources Director and Volunteer Coordinator, because when we became a nonprofit, I knew the most people. But basically what I do with City Tutors is, I basically oversee the tutoring part of City Tutors. So what you're going to be hearing from us is that we're kind of a volunteer hub. We're called the City Tutors, but that's not all we do. We have a mentorship and professional development program as well. And Garri can talk more about that. But in terms of what I do, I see tutoring and academic support for all of the sites that we are partnered with. And in terms of the students that our tutors can support, they can range from 5 years old to 85 years old. So we do everything from elementary school level reading, writing, math, all the way up to college level calculus, physics, biology, chemistry, economics, social science, writing, ESL tutoring. And we're also partnered with adult education and workforce development programs throughout the city.
I forget just how expansive your role is sometimes.
So do I.
And my name is Garri Rivkin. I'm the executive director and founder of City Tutors. My role, besides kind of the typical fundraising aspect of an ED, is also working on the mentorship program. I actually have a hand in overseeing that. My background is in curriculum design and education. I've been a teacher for over a decade, and so I've been working with a different team to make sure that it's working and that we are expanding the work across the city. In addition to that, I'm involved with, and so is Michael, in assessment and expansion efforts.
Absolutely. That sounds really, really great. And we found it really interesting that City Tutors, Mike, you mentioned this just now, that it's a mentoring community. And I was wondering, how do both of you think that having a community-based program like City Tutors, that's, a tutoring and mentoring hub, how does that uniquely empower students?
I am a teacher, but also I was a career service professional. And so when I was in that role, you realize how interlinked especially a college level, those are. To kind of decouple that and suggest there should be just a focus on academics and then some other program dealing with what happens after you graduate, you forget that one, the intentionality behind education for the student, like they are actively taking on debt potentially to then move on to a different stage of their life, and it informs every decision during the course of their time in school. Well, and it also informs the way that they see the subject, connect with the subjects, don't connect with them. So there's that there is like a natural link between those. As a program, being able to see the student through that fullness of the pipeline, support them with their subjects, and then support them as they're graduating and moving into the workforce. That allows for us to really have wraparound support.
Gary's got a very interesting career, like taught over 100 classes. There's no way I'm competing with that. When I was in college, I wasn't really engaged in college or in supporting the community. And that, in hindsight, was disempowering because I wasn't like, I cared about others and I cared about my own professional future. I just didn't know what could be done about that. And the idea of City Tutors isn't really unique because it comes from, I want to know what I should be doing in terms of my next steps. And I want to be able to help other people who I care about, whether they're my fellow students or they're my community. But sometimes I don't quite know what I need to do in order to support that. And so City Tutors is this interesting cross-section between a tutor's professional development and academic support, or even professional development support for their community. Everybody, no matter where they come from, has a particular skill set. They got their own talent. And what we try to do is we try to harness that talent, whether it's for math, reading, or writing, or storytelling. Like, they are able to take that and use that to help other students who are just having difficulty wrapping their minds around everything that's being thrown at them, especially now that everything is moved online. But it was pretty bad before. It also helps the community because for instructors who normally don't have, Garri can tell you this story as well. He had students in his classes who were having difficulty and he just wasn't in a position as an instructor to support them. Tutors are able to fill in that void of support.
But about the like Michael was touching on, the virtual cycle that is created, and we wanted to, so Michael's talking about the tutors and their own professional development. And that's how the mentoring program began. We expanded it out to all students, all community members. Actually, we have some career changers using the service. They don't have to be associated with any institution. And that is another unique feature. It's where we do serve a lot of City University of New York students, but it's something that if somebody's mother, father, brother, sister who's out of school, who wants to use the support, they can, and we'd be able to quickly provide them assistance for the mentoring piece. But this program began as considering how do we leverage the talent of like the people who are going to participate in our program to support the community. How do we leverage it to support them as they're preparing for their next steps?
Thank you for sharing that. It definitely seems like an impactful model that is able to kind of meet the needs of students. So that was really great to hear. I guess shifting gears a little bit, this question is directed toward Michael. I guess I'm curious, like, what would you say are some of the greatest challenges in your operational role at City Tutors?
Ooh, challenges with City Tutors. Well, the first one and most immediate one I can think of is administrative. Like, we have hundreds of volunteers, but in terms of staff, it's basically a two-man team with me and Garri. And Gary's already got hundreds of people that he needs to manage with the mentorship program. So I guess the other 300 to 500 people are me. And, as a nonprofit startup, well, you have all these people who want to help and all these people who want help, and you're the only person who can connect all of them is an eye-opening experience. Short-term solution was just to get like volunteers, because apparently among the professional skills that college students want to develop, administrative support is one of the big ones. And that involves like, just keeping in touch with people, communication, things that most companies want for, and from, an employee who could probably follow up with customers. But our long-term solution is probably that we are going to want to develop and we are developing an automated system that's going to allow for just matching people based off of time availability with a minimum of input from like a specific person. But system like that is being developed by our data operations team. And it will also allow us to vastly scale our services. So right now, the number of students that we're supporting are like in the hundreds in terms of like colleges, middle schools, high schools, after school enrichment programs, housing projects. But what we're going to beta test like in June is going to be a system that could potentially allow us to support thousands of students and across boroughs. So that's going to be fun.